Alex Rider is an ordinary teenager enlisted to work on behalf of MI6, where he uses the skills he didn't know he had to become an extraordinary spy. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new TV series review, and this time we're talking about the Amazon Prime / IMDb new spy thriller, Alex Rider. I'm so excited to let you all know what I thought about this series, and if you should check it out in this spoiler-free review before we dive into the details, as you can see on the screen now. Make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts. That way you can stay up to date of what's going on over here at Movie Files. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Do me a favor and consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my other TV reviews, movie reviews, live streams, all the fun things we do on this very channel. It would mean a lot to me if you all can share this video and make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And in the comments below, let's discuss this series. Now, I know people in the UK got the chance to see this past June. Let me know if you all liked it, if you're excited for the future of this show. And then for those of us in the US, if you get the chance to see Alex Rider, let me know your pros, your cons. And if you have read the novels, let me know if you think this is a good adaptation from the book as well as the film that came out in 2006. Let me know if you all enjoyed this series, and let's have a discussion about it in the comments below. So, don't know much about this character, haven't read the novels. My buddy Griffin at Film Speak told me that he was a fan of this growing up and he really enjoyed the series, so I decided to give it a watch, and I'm here to let you all know if it's worth checking out. But before we dive into my pros, my cons, give you my overall thoughts, and if it's worth checking out, let me give you a little bit of insight of who created the show, what's the show all about, as well as where you can watch your show when it becomes available November 13th. So this series was created by Guy Burt. It is based on Alex Rider novels by Anthony Horowitz. The series consists of 8 episodes that range between 43 and 45 minutes. The 8-episode first season premiered on Amazon Prime in the UK back on June 4th of this year. And for the US audience come November 13th, it will be available on IMDb, which is powered through Amazon Prime. So getting into my positives, if I were to compare this to things I've seen before, it definitely gives me some vibes of Jason Bourne meets James Bond meets Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible franchise. And something that I'm really appreciative about this series is it could have easily stolen things that we've seen from that film, like the action set pieces, the hand-to-hand combat, the gunfights, the car sequences, which are incredible in those franchises. But instead, what it does with this show is it takes the more thought-provoking approach with this series that we get from those movies, whether it be in the smart, witty dialogue, whether it be seeing Alex Rider, this teenager, being thrown into this MI6 situation. So I really applaud the showrunners to not necessarily rely heavily on the action, but instead give you a little bit more thought-provoking type of spy thriller, which I really appreciated. Which brings me to the point of our main character, the spy teenager Alex Rider. I really appreciated that even though he was trained at a young age by his uncle to get out of these type of situations that he finds himself in, at the end of the day, he was still a teenager. He still dealt with teenager things, and he wasn't this kind of world-saving martial arts expert in this show. And I really appreciate that he was really grounded, and if someone you can relate to. He wasn't, again, he was trained at a young age. He could have just been this hot shot and knew everything, but no, he was a regular kid and made it very relatable, and I really enjoyed that character, which brings me into the actual actor that plays Alex Rider. So Otto Farron is our lead character who plays Alex Rider, and I'm not too familiar with this kid's work, but I was really impressed by the way he carried himself on screen. Again, he wasn't this hotshot kid who can be interrogated by intimidating agents. He's not bragging about the skills he learned from his uncle at a young age. He doesn't have these women falling all over him, but instead he's just a regular teenager with a best friend who loves comics and movies. He has a babysitter that cares for him a lot. He has an uncle that's been taking care of him since he was a young age because his parents died. So I really appreciated how this show makes his character so relatable, because again, he could have been this over-the-top spy who knows everything, who's witty, who's just this kind of smart ass, but instead he's just a really kind of down-to-earth character who has these extraordinary skills, and I really enjoyed the performance by our lead character. So other supporting characters that stood out to me is Stephen Delane, aka Stannis Baratheon, as Alan Blunt, the head of the Department of Special Operations. He reminded me a lot of the M character from the James Bond world, and he is willing to add a teenager into the mix if that means saving the world, so I enjoyed his character. You have Vicky McClure as Alex Handler, a really nice addition to the cast. Brynnick O'Connor, another Game of Thrones character who is Alex's best friend, who brought a lot of charm and charisma and brought really the comedic relief to this show. And last but not least, one of my favorite characters actually, and kind of a surprising character, is Kyra, a hacker from Singapore and a student at the Point Blanc school who keeps to herself. So again, you have a really strong performance by our lead character, complemented with some great supporting characters. It really makes the show really entertaining, which going into some other things I liked about the show, and particularly the cinematography, I felt at times I was watching a James Bond film, especially when we go to the school. We have this snow-like environment, and you see how resourceful Alex is when he makes an ironing board into a snowboard. So I really felt the cinematographer used the camera well. The use of colors was really vibrant, and I really enjoyed the cinematography there. Other technical things I enjoyed about the show was the actual composer and the score. This very techno-like vibe, which added a lot of urgency to the scenes when it needed to be there. It was fun at times. You feel like you were, watching this action adventure, so I really enjoyed the score as well. Some other things I wanted to highlight in my positives were the second half of the show. To me, episodes 4, 6, 7, and 8 was when the show really kind of knew what it was. It had a better footing, because I'll get more into it in my negatives, but the first 3 episodes were a little uneven, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, the show at its finest and the most entertaining and most compelling and most interesting was once Alex gets his mission and he goes to this school, which has a lot of mysterious aspects. It kind of had a tinge of horror because you didn't know what was going on in the school. You didn't know what these students were really into. So I really enjoyed once Alex goes to this school, episodes 4 and on were where the show had the best footing, the most foundation, and most compelling for me personally. So those are some things I really enjoyed about the show, kind of transitioning into my criticisms that I have of the show Alex Rider. So I mentioned it earlier that this show doesn't rely on action to really kind of tell its narrative, but I'm not going to lie, the action is very lacking in this show. Now, we get a couple fight sequences in episodes 7 and 8, but besides that, this show really doesn't have a lot of entertaining action set pieces, which again, I didn't necessarily need that, but it would have been nice to kind of see some agents fighting each other, some maybe cool car sequences. We might get that in season 2, but when it comes to season 1, the action is very lacking in that department when it comes to this show. Some other things that kind of come to mind, and this might be minor, but there were some minor plot issues, especially when we go to this really cool school again. I thought the school was very fascinating, but when I think of the school, it's this heavily guarded school that you can't get in, you can't get out unless they let you in and out. And it came to security guards having guns, there's cameras everywhere, but then every now and then Alex finds a way into a room that doesn't have security cameras, there's no security guards, so little plot issues like that kind of come to mind. I also want to bring up some of the characters. Now, I did enjoy the supporting characters, but there were some characters that I thought were really set up pretty interesting, but there's no payoff. Like, I think of Jax as a character, the caretaker, the babysitter of Alex, that doesn't really get much to do besides the first couple episodes, and she's just kind of absent for the rest of the season. I think of the family that Alex has to pretend to be rich, and without going into details there's this really interesting female character that was supposed to be a sister that was really interesting, but she doesn't do anything besides her one episode, and that family in general, and just the whole kind of setup between, what we get with the head of the MI6 and that character, like what's going on there, and then like little other characters that were really kind of interesting, especially in MI6, that really don't get that much development, which was kind of unfortunate. And hopefully they maybe get a payoff, they get more to do in a season 2. Some other things that kind of come to mind as far as negatives, I didn't expect this show to kind of break new ground, but when it comes to the villain, we've seen this villain before, and we've seen this actor playing a villain that I wasn't a fan of in 2018 Halloween. I wasn't a fan of him being a fake Loomis, but in this show, his motives, you've seen it before. It's nothing too new. And just in general, besides the assassin that we get throughout this show that I won't dive into, he was pretty cool, and I'm excited to see where he goes in season 2. But the main doctor at the school and his henchman, which I like that actress, and I wish she would have given more, but she was very generic. And that's what I think of the villains in the show. Very generic, very kind of one note, and very lackluster in that department. I touched on the back half being the more entertaining, more compelling, which for me, it wasn't that the first 3 episodes were bad, but they were slightly boring, if I'm not gonna lie. It took me a couple days to get through the first 3 episodes, which if you all know me, I binge through things pretty quickly, but the first 3 episodes were really kind of uneven. It was just, the story was kind of lacking in the compelling department. We're not getting into details, but you meet Alex, his situation, you meet his family, you meet his uncle, something happens to his uncle, and we're spending the first 3 episodes on this mole in MI6, which really doesn't add up to anything. And it just, like, to me, the first 3 episodes, it really didn't have a good footing, and it really didn't know what it was until we get into the second half of the show, which is once we go to the school. And then last thing I want to mention is I enjoyed Alex. I like the actor, but when you meet Alex at the beginning of the show, he's just thrust into the MI6. We really don't know him as a character. So when you get this character arc, there really isn't much of a change between who the Alex is at the beginning. Yes, he goes through this thing that he has to go on his first mission, and he has some type of PTSD when when things kind of play out, but I really don't feel like Alex as a character was that that develop, and we really don't know who he is as a person. Hopefully we get more of that in the season 2. So those are some kind of things that come out to mind as far as criticisms. But before I give you all my overall thoughts and if you should check the show out, make sure if you haven't already to give this video a thumbs up, share this video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and of course subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other content. With that being said, let me give you all my overall thoughts. So overall, I found this teenage version of Jason Bourne meets James Bond series to be a lot of fun when it needed to be, but then when it had to be a serious spy drama, it delivered in that department. And even though our main character is a teenager, the show does not rely on the YA tropes that we've seen in other shows before. Now, even though I didn't find this to be a groundbreaking spy thriller in the genre, I still found Alex Rider to be very entertaining, very clever, and overall a satisfying series that leaves me wanting more to see what's to come next for this teen spy. So with that being said, I don't think this is like must-watch television and you have to watch it day one when it premieres, but if you get the chance, if you like spy thrillers, if you like these novels, I think you're going to have a good time with this show. And according to what I found, this show has already been greenlit for a season 2, which I'm actually looking forward to, and I hope that we get more action, we get more character development and some more interesting characters. But overall, this first season is something I recommend you all check out. So that's just my thoughts on Alex Rider. Let me know in the comments again if you've seen this show, your pros, your cons, what you hope to see in the season 2, and then also if this was a good adaptation for those that have read the novels. Let me know that in the comments. As always, make sure to like, share, comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my other content. Thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you all on the next video.